Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre. This is episode 144, and we are recapping the South by Southwest Film Festival down in New Orleans. I'm Liz Williams, and I'm joined by
Mike Campbell
and Eric Lee from here in Portland, Oregon.
Up in Portland. Hi, guys. South by Southwest.
So Liz got to go this year.
It was a big one.
And, I think we've done a number of festivals at this point. We've done a lot of them virtually. But South by Southwest, this is the big dog. And I can only imagine how
well, you know what they say. Things are bigger.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
True. Although, I guess they don't say that about Toronto. I think Toronto's still the biggest one in North America.
They say things are nicer in Toronto.
Yeah.
Not big, just nice.
Yeah, it was insane. It was huge. And when I was meeting people and talking to people who have attended multiple times, they're like, "Oh, this is like 60% capacity."
What?
Yes. So I have no idea, hopefully, if the South by Southwest people are nice enough again to give us press passes next year.
Yes, please.
And we can go.
Yes,
I can only imagine that it will be bigger.
It's so
more
expensive.
people.
I mean, how do you...
Yeah.
That people paying out a lot of money, unless they're really generous unless there's 30,000 people with passes.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. People are shelling out big bucks. I know they had a ton of volunteers who are awesome, and they, work for passes.
Yeah. So what would your advice be, Liz, as somebody who is thinking about or contemplating going, at least for the film segment, because there's so many gosh darn segments for South by Southwest. What would your advice or pieces of advice to somebody who is thinking about going? What would you say to them?
Okay, if you're paying, definitely do the early bird, because I think those passes went from $1,200 to like $1,600 if you didn't get that early bird.
Ouch.
Yeah, and it would be a lot of money if you were buying a pass and paying for a hotel and everything when you're there. But man, you get a lot of free stuff. You meet a lot of cool people.
Right.
And there's a ton of films. If you don't see everything you wanted to see, you'll discover new things that you didn't even know you wanted to see.
And it's a long festival when you link in the music festival and the arts stuff, because the movie's open, right? That's what starts the festival.
Yes, movies are first. It's kicked off on Friday with the first film was Everything Everywhere All at Once, or
the Michelle Yeoh movie.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
didn't
did that get released this
get
week?
in time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that just came out. But then the film festival kind of wraps up on Tuesday. That's when they have their awards. And music starts on Monday, big time. But they've continued to play many of the films throughout the week, but not the big premieres. They only get like 1 or 2 screenings, maybe.
Yeah, depending on how soon we get this podcast out, they do have an after pass that you can.
Cool.
It's still like $240. But they have some of their a lot of the lectures.
Afterpass sounds like a medical medical procedure.
It's an
afterpass.
You're gonna have to have an afterpass. Well, Liz, how many films do you think how many did you actually see in the course of what you were there for, like 5 days?
5 days or 4 full days, 5 nights, and I think I saw 12.
Woo!
Wow.
Yeah.
Good work.
And all except for one were really, really good.
Okay. Well,
the one that was not good wasn't horror
stick here.
anyway.
there was a couple losers. There was a couple losers South by Southwest. You came out strong with some really cool stuff. But I started with 2 losers.
Yeah.
So
I didn't see those. I took your reviews to heart.
What was your review list? What movies did you see?
So I watched Bitch Ass and I watched Deadstream, both which were pretty darn mediocre. That said, both had some really interesting elements, and I think there is a story there for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the execution was pretty shoddy in both cases.
And then you'll be reviewing the other movies that you saw.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So in addition to what I saw, I also saw Deadstream.
Mm-hmm.
and I missed out. I had booked Hypochondriac and Linoleum, but I didn't. I ran out of time, and then the window passed. But I think you're going to catch. You've got one of those on your list.
Yep,
So
indeed.
Well, Linoleum was it. Too bad you missed that. I think it will. I think it's an Amazon Studios, so I think it's going to come to Amazon. It's definitely going to be worth the watch. It's not horror, but all of us in the theater were crying at the end.
Oh,
it was touching, and it stars Jim Gaffigan, and it is delightful.
Nice.
And they were all there, and that was cool.
Well, yeah, and the other one that fit into that mold as well was Emergency, which is it's not really a horror film. It's a very intense thriller. It does tug at your heartstrings on a number of different occasions, and it is completely filled with, oh God, don't do that. Oh no, don't do that. Oh no, he did it. Oh no, and it's just like repeated over and over and over, and it just fits together so perfectly, like this incredibly tragic puzzle. But it is good. Emergency is really good.
So,
again, not horror, but I do recommend folks go and check that one out.
Right, and I think it's
definite thriller.
And Joseph did review it for the podcast for the site. So if you go to Scariest Things, he did pair that with another film I think we're going to be talking about. Jessica.
I think the festival is. You'll get the most mileage out of it if you go there to try, and if you go beyond, sort of if you're not just there for the horror.
Oh, sure.
Right.
This is a festival because there were a couple of really big movies. The Sandra Bullock movie, which was coming out, and
I think it's out now.
And the Nick Cage movie.
Yeah.
Oh, the Nick Cage,
the unbearable weight of massive talent. Everybody said it was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not get into that one. I was at the Linoleum screening.
Oh, there you go. The Tony Hawk documentary was awesome.
Yeah.
The Kids in the Hall documentary was awesome.
Oh, that was great.
Movie,
the Ronnie James Dio, which I thought that's what we were going to talk about all day today.
Yeah.
I thought I made that very, very, very clear.
Mike has.
I will say that is a great film. And
it was great.
To the two directors from the Ronnie James Dio film, if you're listening to the podcast, we would love to have you on the podcast. I know we've already asked you to come on the podcast, so come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast.
And not just in kind of the silly way that we often talk about get on the podcast.
Like for real.
No, like for real.
For real. Yeah, it's a great documentary. If you have any interest in Ronnie James Dio and his very, very long career through Rainbow, Black Sabbath, and Dio, it is a fascinating watch. And I mean, I will say from as an icon, we will probably never see anybody like that again, who had a career that almost spanned 50 years of music. That's insane to think about in this day and age. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see that again, ever, probably.
It was a great documentary.
Yeah, and in this day and age, to be a successful musician is so hard just to get noticed at all.
Yeah.
So, and most of them are going to fall into the flash in the pan kind of variants. But anyways,
to your point though, I totally agree. Like if you go there, if you get a movie pass, go see all the stuff, because there's
see as much as you can. There's
lots
tons
of interesting stuff.
And Austin's a pretty small city where they have like the festival part, so everything was really walkable. They had shuttles for if you had to go across the river to like the Alamo Draft House was over there, and it was great. It was pretty well organized, and I had a lot of fun. It was very overwhelming though. I mean, a ton of people, a ton.
Take a deep breath, do some yoga.
Yeah. So it would be akin to. I get the sense that South by Southwest is like going to San Diego Comic-Con.
Probably.
Yeah, I would say
it's just a sea of humanity.
And
everybody's just sort of busting with excitement, and there's vendors everywhere, probably.
Yeah.
And there's just it always seems like there's something that's drawing your eye or your ears. And I think that I've been pondering as we continue on. When we don't get the opportunity to necessarily get streaming.
Oh, sure.
In the future. I don't know if I love the fact that we get those opportunities, but if that tap gets shut off, then all of a sudden becomes where are we going to spend our travel money?
Right.
Like if we actually have to show up in person to see the stuff.
Yeah. Because then it's like, are we doing Southwest or are we doing Overlook?
Right.
Or and then we've talked about Fantastic Fest, which is another one.
Yeah, that's the one I want to do.
Because
that's
that's our genre specific, also in Austin.
Yep.
But it is. I think the cool thing about South by Southwest, when we get the opportunity to do it, these are all world premieres.
Right.
They are all pretty big.
Yeah.
And I think last year proved out that they gave us good movies to see,
Heck
and that it's these are not going to. Someone's going to pick these movies up, and they're going to get
100%.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
unlike I think a lot of the other
Even,
festivals.
even the crappy ones get picked up.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you because there was a couple crappy ones last year that got picked up.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad to say. All right, Liz. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off with what's our first point of discussion?
All right. Well, we're going to kick it off with a little bit of a group discussion talking about the biggest midnighter and world premiere of Ty West's X. So they had this in one of the small theaters, or medium theater they call it. It only seated 305 people. And this was the actual world premiere. So I was like freaking out that I was not going to get in, but I did.
Yeah.
And made a friend in line. Hi, Jonathan, if you're listening. He's a cool filmmaker who ended up being my line buddy at X. And almost the whole group was there. Ty West was there, Brittany Snow, Martin Henderson, Kid Cudi. They were all there. He did an intro of the film and said that aside from the people at A24 and about 5 of his friends, we were the first group to see this film. Like the people in it.
Wow.
Well, amazingly though, how fast it went from South by Southwest
to being out. It came out on Friday. It premiered on Sunday night at South by Southwest, and then the following Friday was released for everybody.
Also, so, Liz, you got one of the very first reviews up on IMDb for people to pick up. So
that's right.
Score one for the good guys.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of movie, man, it was really good to see in a theater with people who wanted to see this movie. Like when we saw Hereditary and things like that, and The Lodge. It's one of those where you have to be in a group. And for people who don't know, it's about a film crew who are going out to a rural Texas farmhouse to make a porno, and the cabin and barn that they have rented are owned by this couple that are kind of crazy religious people who think sex is a big giant no-no. And the old man is like, don't let my wife see this. And the wife sees it, and the proverbial shit hits the fan. And you get it all. You get an alligator. You get
strong Texas Chainsaw vibes.
Yeah, yes,
in this.
yes.
I think that
but they filmed it in New Zealand.
Yeah, that was remarkably. Yeah, it's
like, right.
Yeah.
But the kind of the setup, in fact, it even had the gas station. Visit.
Yeah.
For me, who just went through a whole series of watching a bunch of movies with gas station setups, and one of the most famous ones being Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right. Yeah.
It's like ka-ching, and then the rural farmhouse, and
here's the twist, though. Here's the big twist. In Texas Chainsaw, the villains were far, far, far more interesting than the group of teenagers. In X, the group of teenagers were far more interesting than the villains.
Granted, not teenagers.
Yeah.
Well, young adults. Young adults, and then the one main character. Wayne was in his
30s.
I think he was 40. They said he was 40.
Yeah, he proclaimed himself to be in his early 40s.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that's the big twist, because a lot of people are comparing it to Texas Chainsaw, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. It had a lot of the same sort of foundational setups, but I think that the twist around was very, very different for both.
Yeah, and I think Liz, you gave it the full 5-star.
Yep.
Rating.
Yeah, I loved it. Oh man, I had a blast.
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 4. I think I really enjoyed it. I think that it had it was Mike's right. That cast of characters, they were all very interesting. Each one of them, and they each had their role to play, and they didn't seem to be granted that they are kind of cannon fodder in a way.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Right.
But there seemed to be the logic of, because it played out very, very quick.
Yeah.
It was like it played out in real time, and they also, Ty West set up a lot of stuff. It was like I'm going to show you the alligator. And I went, Mike, wait for it.
And I was like, the alligator's not coming.
Chekhov's alligator.
Alligator's not coming back.
It's like and then they had a lot of these neat callbacks or even sort of setups. It's like there's another nail setup, and as soon as it shows up, you go, oh no!
Yep.
In fact, I think I
Wayne got the nail.
No.
Wayne got the nail.
And
and another thing that was cool, and that Ty West even commented on, was how he was able to keep most of what happens in this film secret for a very, very long time, and then asked the reviewers, "Hey, hold off on spoiling or showing what we got to see a little bit of extra, but we can say it now," because he, the next day after the premiere, said that he's already created the prequel and shot the prequel for this, and it's called Pearl, which is based off the old woman character when she was younger, and we got to see the preview at
we did too.
The screening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
they showed it after the movie.
There's a sequel as well. Yes, a prequel and a sequel. It is a trilogy.
A trilogy.
Okay. It is a trilogy. I don't know.
Kind of hard to sequel this one.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to happen, but there is a trilogy.
A lot of dead people in this movie.
Awesome. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah,
that's what we had to wait 10 years from Ty West. I guess it was worth the wait if we're going to get 3.
Oh, heck yeah!
And the prequel is supposed to come out this year.
Yeah,
wow.
this fall.
Yeah, probably end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was with Eric as well. I think it's a 4-star movie. I loved it. My biggest complaint was that I think the old couple for me was not sort of malevolent enough. I was looking
that's fair.
I was looking for a little bit of like mischievousness, a grimace.
He wanted a devil cult.
A devil cult. I wanted a Freddy Krueger-esque, like cackle. I wanted something, but both characters were so flat because they were elderly, but there was never any sort of like truly grimacing character attribute that I went like, ooh, God.
Yeah. I think that I think my major hang up was that it was a classic divide the party.
Yeah,
because it's like you have a group of young, capable people, and these are legitimately old, frail, crazy people.
Right,
but they're old and they're frail, and there are at least the three of the three or the two of the guys are big dudes. Who could have and truth be told, if any of them had been together and they were able to puzzle it out, they could have overwhelmed the old lady, but it was so carefully orchestrated that the dominoes fell, and it was great relative to the story. And Mike jumped out of his chair twice.
3 times. I think it was 3 times.
Yeah,
I think it was 3 times.
I loved it. It was
great jump scares.
It is a testament to great.
God, there were some great jump scares in that film.
Yeah.
I think my extra star is just from the atmosphere and being there and being so excited.
I do think this is. I think this is going to be a breakout piece for Ty West for people who don't know Ty West.
Right.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of buzz coming off this one.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think it's got the sleazy factor that's a lot of fun, and in a way, it sort of legitimizes the sleaze.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
I mean, it's like legit. It's like everything but the up close bits of the porn kind of stuff that they do. But it's all in service of the story,
right?
As opposed to a Friday the 13th movie where you just have naked teenagers running around,
right,
just horny teenagers.
Yeah, this
is actually, I think it's funny because it's like they don't know what we're doing here, do they?
Right.
And I intend to keep it that way.
Right.
That kind of stuff, and also the dynamics of the group, as Mike was saying, was very interesting, and how that they all. Because this being sort of the late 70s, all of a sudden, the sort of the sexual mores of the time, and seeing, how each of them comes to grip with the sex industry.
Right.
It's very, I thought it was very clever, very well done, and it actually led to some very interesting decisions for the characters.
Yep.
So in a way, I thought that was
awesome, which
was super smart, and Ty West always super smart. The pacing on this movie was fantastic.
Right.
Because even before like the bloody mayhem kicked in, the backstory of the movie production and what they're doing, and the relationships was also very interesting. The character building was fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's a great film. It's a great film.
So that's X.
All right. So
That's
since no one else has seen any of these other films or can't see any of these other films just yet, we're going to quickly go through a whole slew of other things we saw that we really like, that we recommend to write down, take note of, because they will be out on a streaming service, or hope to God in a theater near you very, very soon.
Or maybe at another film festival.
Right. Or you can order a DVD online. Maybe. I don't know. Hopefully X comes out on VHS, because they did House of the Devil. House of the Devil did put out a special version VHS.
Mike, one of the 25 people who still has a
VHS player
that actually still works.
Come on, do it.
Right.
All right. So, Liz, what were the other films that you saw at South by Southwest that you really liked? In person. In person.
So my other 5-star review out of this film festival was Watcher. Watcher is directed by Chloe Okuno, who had done a part of VHS, one of the segments in the new VHS. This is a slow burn. Oh, this movie is my wheelhouse. So this is about Julia, played by Micah Monroe from It Follows, and her Romanian husband, Francis, played by Carl Glusman. He gets a promotion, so they uproot themselves from the States and move to Romania. So he's working all the time. He speaks Romanian. She doesn't. She's alone. So she's stranger in a strange land while he's not there. And one night they're going to dinner and are walking down the street, and there's an ambulance and a crime scene, and they hear that a woman has been found murdered with her head chopped off, and that this is not the first murder that's happened in the neighborhood. So, creepy there. And then Julia also, while she's setting up the new apartment, keeps seeing this figure in the building across the street that looks like he's staring directly into her windows. So she has to go through trying to find this watcher. That's just what they call him. And the ending is bonkers and awesome and exactly what I needed. It slow burned and then just gut punches you at the end, and it is gory and bloody. And this is from IFC Midnight, and the release date is June 3rd. So you will be able to see this soon.
So was there any supernatural to the Watcher, or is it just like straight up serial killer?
So that is
straight up serial killer.
Exciting.
That is for me. Yes,
and that was one of the ones, unfortunately, that was not available for streaming.
No, it wasn't streaming.
To be in Austin to watch it.
Yep.
So go read Liz's review of that, because
it
is one of very, very few reviews kicking around out there.
It was so good. I can't wait.
Yeah, The Watcher. Or Watcher or The Watcher?
Just Watcher. Just Watcher.
All right. Yeah. What else did you see, Liz?
Okay. So my second highest rated one is a kind of like a scrappy little film called The Prank. And Mike, I know you got to see this online. This movie stars Rita Moreno. Yes, that Rita Moreno,
awesome.
Who's 90 years old and is rocking leather pants in this movie.
and Rita Moreno, this is her year. She's up. It's Oscar night tonight. And West Side Story. She was.
Right.
So,
oh my God! Is she in the remake of West Side Story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God! You're kidding.
So my sister's been telling me I got to go see it. But
she's amazing. Yeah. She plays this physics teacher who has been teaching for like 40 years, and just all the students. She just kind of terrorizes her students. She is just tough teacher. And she discovers that someone has cheated on their midterm exam, so she's going to flunk the whole class. And our main character, Ben, is waiting on this grade to be able to do his college applications. So he is so angry that him and his best friend, Tanner, played by Ramona Young, decide that they are going to frame the teacher for the murder of a student who had been missing for 2 years. They don't know if he's dead, but that way she's going to get fired, and the class will go to pass fail, and it won't count towards his GPA, so he won't have to declare it on his application. So Yeah, it seems like a great idea, right? So this
But
goes,
But
once you get that wheel turning, it just snowballs out of control. Like, it's so funny. Like, the newscasters are like, "Yeah, I believe it. She was my teacher." Like, everybody in the
she's
has had
awful.
this teacher.
Yeah, and
Um,
all the parents are the same way. They're like,
exactly.
she was a pretty awful teacher.
Everybody's had them.
yeah.
This also has some serious comedy chops. It has Kate Flannery, who played Drunk Meredith on The Office. It has
Yeah.
Kimmel, and she plays the lunch lady, which is
Right,
amazing.
right.
Jonathan Kimmel plays the janitor, and Keith David, yes,
Mhm.
that Keith David plays the principal.
Heck yeah.
Let's go with the
I said that this film reminded me, it is a cross between The Burbs and like all the Nickelodeon shows from the late 80s and early 90s, like Pete and Pete and Clarissa Explains It All.
Totally.
These kids are wholesome and wonderful and lovable, but also, they've got the snarky one who's doing his TikToks and like
Yeah.
the tech gossip and stuff like that. But oh man,
You
it's
know what it
so
is? It's
fun.
a really smart version of Goosebumps. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a Goosebumps that you can watch with your kids and not cringe and go, "Oh God, this is so dumb." Now
Right,
looking
right.
back in retrospect, it is it's a smart version of Goosebumps. I really loved it. I watched it with my 11-year-old, who I let him stay up about an hour later on a school night so that we could finish it up, and he said, I don't want to go upstairs because this movie is so intense. I don't want to miss any of it.
Yeah, it was great. It
Yeah.
was great.
So it's perfect for kids. It's perfect for adults. I mean, there are some
PG-13.
There's some F word, F bombs.
It's probably PG-13. There's no nudity. There's like a couple of very light allusions to drug usage, and then there's a couple
but
uses of the
mostly
F word.
mostly mean scheming.
Yeah. So that's The Prank, and hopefully that will be coming soon because that was a world premiere.
And wasn't that an Amazon one as well?
It might have been,
okay.
which would be great because then it will come to Amazon.
Yeah,
Then my third pick that I will do is called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. If the kids from The Prank were lovable, these kids are not lovable in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. This is about a bunch of 20-somethings who are having pretty much a hurricane party at Pete Davidson's parents' house. He plays David, and they're all rich, and they're all going to have this hurricane party, and they're playing this game that's called Bodies, 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 which is kind of like...
Isn't that what you do down there? Isn't that a New Orleans thing?
the hurricane, yeah.
A hurricane party, yes. Doing this silly game, no. But so one of the girls, her name is Sophie. She brings her new girlfriend B out there, and B she's not poor, but she's not rich like these people. And the power goes out. I don't know why they're surprised that the power goes out. I mean, it's a hurricane. They are surprised, and Pete Davidson's character ends up getting killed. And so they're all turning on each other, trying to figure out what happened to him, that he got killed for real, and backstabbing, hijinks, craziness ensue. So this one screened at one of the big theaters that holds 1,200 people. Yeah, that whole group was there.
Geology 101.
Yeah. I know that reference. Yeah. Okay.
And
sorry,
I know this is coming out. It says March 14th, but that was the day it streamed at South by Southwest. This does not have a release date yet, but I will say these are characters that are not likable at all. And kind of some of the jokes didn't really land for me, but maybe because I'm no longer a 20-something.
Missing the references. What is this TikTok thing that you
tell me about the TikTok and the Facebook. But the ending, when you find out what happened to Pete Davidson's character, is phenomenal. So it's an A24 film too. We're going to see it sometime this year. So stay tuned to Scariest Things, and we'll tell you when it's coming out. Also, another woman director. Her name is Helena Rain. She was Swedish, I believe, or Norwegian.
Seems like A24 is like branching out a little bit. They're getting away
Yeah,
from
a little
like the strictly the auteur type films, and they're like trying out some other stuff as well.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
didn't feel A24 to me,
Yeah,
but it was.
yeah.
Well, I think
Well,
you know,
and
they
X is another great example. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
necessarily put X in the A24 camp because it doesn't really have an artistic quality to
But
it.
I think haven't they done a lot?
I would have thought
of-
Watcher would have been more A24, and that's IFC Midnight.
Yeah,
'cause that
yeah.
was I think a lot of the Larry Fessenden school
Yeah.
goes through A24, and Ty
Maybe.
West.
Ty
Ty
West
is the
Yeah.
the one of the most successful of the Fessenden School of Directors.
Yeah, for sure,
So,
for sure.
Not super surprising that it's A24, but all the more reasons. Like I have an A24 subscription through the Amazon Prime.
Oh,
everything.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
So if you guys, for those of you who like your art house horror, and now that they're branching out to quality, more slightly mainstream things, yeah, totally worth picking up.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, those are my picks.
All right. Eric, you go next. You want me to
Sure.
go next?
So what I am, I'm going to talk about lead off with a couple of movies that you most likely will not get a chance to see unless you go to festivals, because I'm going to talk about a couple of great short films that came up. So
Cool.
they have a midnight shorts block, and unlike
Through IMDb.
unlike a lot of other festivals, they don't have a lot. I think they
Right.
just had. I think there were 10
Right.
of them of the films.
Mhm.
Unlike say, like our Portland Horror Film Festivals you get 55 of them or something like that. You get a
Yep.
lot. But South by Southwest curates a small run. So they're all very interesting. My two favorites are the ones I'm going to talk about. The first one is called Moshari, and it's directed by a man named Nuhash Humayun. Which the premise being, when the world is overrun with bloodthirsty creatures, the last of mankind persevere in Dhaka, Bangladesh, by spending their nights inside the Moshari, the only known shelter from the unknown threat. And Moshari in Bangladeshi is mosquito netting.
Oh, okay.
There are two sisters, Apu and Ira, and they must navigate this strange new world to survive. However, their strained relationship is becoming as much of a threat as the dangers outside. And one night, when Ira's curiosity lures her outside the safety of the Mashari, Apu must rise to the occasion as they face their demons together. And it's beautiful and it's dreamy. The rest of the world has fallen. And they actually make some statements about there's like an intercom thing that's going off in the background, not an intercom, but a megaphone that's going out there and saying, "Everybody get to your shelters." It's like the West is fallen. There's no one else is going to come and save you.
Right.
It's like it's just us now. So take care of yourselves. And and then they said it's up to Bangladesh to hold out for humanity. And so, and there's these two young girls, and one of them's like 8. And she's a curious kid.
Sure.
She doesn't want to follow her bossy big sister. She gets easily bored, and so she's like teasing the mosquito netting.
Yeah.
And she finds a hole, and she starts, and it's like, "Oh, don't do that, kid.
Yeah.
Don't do that." And it, situation happens. It's not mosquitoes. The blood-sucking things are not mosquitoes. Much bigger, much worse. And it's a really, really beautiful movie, and I've often wondered why the South Asian subcontinent doesn't produce more good horror movies as opposed to some places like Indonesia, which do, or even like Argentina.
I thought Indonesia qualified as the South Asian subcontinent.
No, that would be South. This would be Pakistan, India, Bangladesh.
Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Bollywood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
it's the number 2 after Hollywood.
Right.
It's huge. But they'd prefer doing song and dance numbers. And dramas and sexy cops and stuff like that. That's
were the blood-sucking creatures bats?
Can
you say?
They're more like vampires. They're vampires.
Ooh.
Oh.
Like small vampires? Big vampires?
Big vampires.
Vampires.
But for whatever reason, this special mosquito netting, I think, has kept them out, these mosharis, and that there's something about it. They don't really go into much depth about it.
What was the runtime on it?
This was about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think it again it's a transportational movie because it's in the slums. I mean, like if there aren't things that aren't slums in Bangladesh, but it's super exotic feeling, and you get you can feel the tension, both the external tension and the internal tension.
Okay.
Every step, every move seems to have something potent ready to happen, and it was terrific. And so this is one that if you're going to festivals, keep an eye out. I think Moshari is one to keep an eye out for.
Moshari.
The second of the short films that I saw was Nightbreakers, directed by a couple of Spaniards, Gabriel Campoy and Guillaume Lafoz. And a group of people trudge through a maze of underground tunnels. They break the absolute darkness with abundant lights that are attached to their bodies in Baroque suits loaded with batteries and lights of many kinds. On their journey, they will have to face the dangers that lurk in the dark and, what's worse, themselves. This is a perfectly constructed short film. This is it's an in media res sci-fi horror snippet.
Yeah.
So you're thrown right in the middle of the action. It feels like it is at the conclusion of a movie, and that these are the survivors, and this is their last push to get to safety, right? But they're near, the batteries are running out, and the lights are keeping the monsters at bay.
Sure.
So it has a feel like, if you remember Pitch Black, where there's a group of survivors who are trying to get to a spaceship, and they've got limited lights and that kind of stuff. Has the same kind of vibe there, but you're seeing this group of people. But accidents, misfortune, betrayal, and just bad interpersonal dynamics imperil their ability to get to safety. And then every now and then you see these shadowy monsters come in and take one of them away. And it opens great because it's like it's like the heavy breathing, everybody's running, and you see these lights bobbing around. It's like little Christmas trees coming towards the camera. And then it's got a really harrowing conclusion. And I think that the testament to this is that I want to know more about this story, how it started, and really how it ends. If really how it ends, I mean, it could have been the end here.
So you think this is maybe a proof of concept kind of thing?
I think that would be cool.
If it was a proof of concept,
more,
I would sign up for this thing as a full feature.
Okay.
All right.
What was this one called?
It's called Nightbreakers.
Nightbreakers.
From
and
Spain.
It's sort of a kind of a steampunk post-apocalyptic survival thing, and
that seems to be a theme here.
Yeah.
So that was great. So the some of the other ones, I think the other films they got kind of some weird ones.
Sure.
Some that were talking about life in the pandemic, and they got a little bit kind of too preachy.
Sure.
It's like, I could pass on that. But those were the two that stood out for me.
Cool.
So
beyond wash your hands and wear a mask.
Yeah.
It's like it sounds weird, but I bailed out on a couple of short films.
Hey, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
It's like
I didn't pay for this.
I know
I'm turning this crap off.
I know it's only going to go another 10 minutes, but I'm done with this thing.
It's 10 minutes too long.
And then there were some of them that were just like 2 minutes.
Right.
There was an interesting one called Omi, where there was a father and a son who go out fishing, and father's it's a African American couple, or a father and son, and it tells him, "Hey kid, this is how you tie a knot." And the little boy's going, "Dad, look at me, I'm standing on the boat." And it's like, "Don't do that." And he falls in the water. He reaches in, pulls him out, and it's a girl. And it's like,
oh, that's crazy,
weird. And then she pushes Dad over, and Dad comes back out, and it's a woman. And it's like, what the hell happened? What was that? I don't know if it was really a horror thing, but it was weird.
Right.
So, because they're midnighters, also they kind of just do whatever doesn't fit in any other category. They're like,
fantastical.
Yeah.
So,
Midnighters is a very, very broad
wide
term.
net.
Were there any funny ones? Because oftentimes the funny ones are the ones that steal the show in the short
The one that I probably there was a Chinese or a Hong Kong one that I missed. There was that one sounded, and that one won some awards, but I missed it. And so anyway, so that's what you get for me for the short films.
All right.
Feature film, and this is one that I think all three of us saw. I probably liked it a little bit better than you guys. I know I liked it better than Mike, but it's still not great. This is Sissy. Yeah, yeah. So directed by
I'm not gonna give it that
no,
sound effect,
yeah,
but I didn't love
right.
it.
And
We need a Foley artist.
and
We need a Foley artist for Scariest Things.
this was directed by Hannah Barlow, who who stars in the movie,
Uh-huh.
and Kane Senesi. So this is about Cecilia, who's become a successful influencer using self-help meditation rituals of her own creation. Unfortunately, she has yet to truly conquer her own insecurities, and when she gets invited to spend some quality time with a long-lost childhood bestie, Emma, who's Barlow,
And
her childhood bully,
and a frenemy.
yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
let me explain.
Yep.
Okay, I'm talking here.
Bestie and frenemy. Yep.
Like right here with me and Mike. Her childhood bully Alex also is at this bachelorette party, and it brings up long dormant fears, and she's forced to take a much more aggressive approach to deal with her problems than just crossing her legs and putting a rope around herself. At times this is admirable, and other times it's really frustrating. This movie is a bit of a mixed bag of bullying tropes. And I think for bullying movies, you get many horror classics out of these things. Unchecked bullying leads to revenge, and when the victims get pushed past their boiling point, the tables can turn violently, and the benchmark being Carrie, right?
Right.
Or Let the Right One In. You got Ginger Snaps. You got
Right.
Christine. You got a bunch of these things. So it's in order to make it work, you need to empathize with the victim or the person who's going to make the flip, Carrie. Right. And it's a tricky line, as you're naturally inclined to side with a victim who's the underdog in the battle of the powerful and the weak. Make the victim too pathetic, and you risk rooting for someone who may not deserve the sympathy. Make the victim too strong, and there's no dramatic tension.
And they never. The other problem was that they never really showed the bullying, right? The bullying.
Oh no, they totally showed the bullying.
They do.
It's the kind of but it's not. Again, it's the proportion of what it is. It's like
right.
It was the teasing that broke up a lifetime friendship.
But it's so subtle, and it's not persistent, and it's not altogether that aggressive, I guess.
Well,
and
okay.
So you just go.
Let me put it in this way.
Yeah.
You were never a 13-year-old girl.
True.
That's true. But I don't know. Bullying, I don't think would be enough to turn you into a psychopath.
No, right. But the rationale for why Alex, the bully, hates her so much now, that move.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
That says Cecilia's violent streak shows up as a child.
Yeah, the twist is big,
and so that was like, okay, I
but
get
the
it.
bullying's not.
No, but but I also know that constant belittling and badgering can wear on you. You don't have to pour a bucket of pig's blood on you to be considered bullying. And so, but I think that is one of the tricky things with this movie is that the reaction is disproportional to the amount of bullying.
Sure.
And then later on, I mean, there was a lot of, and I would say it's frustrating because I didn't like the rest of the party goers were a bunch of narcissistic, and it's like the LGBT community at its most characteristically obnoxious, right? And you
more to your point, there was no one, unfortunately, in the film to root for, and so that ultimately Sissy is kind of a terrible character, and whether she does good, bad, or indifferent, you don't ultimately really care.
Yeah, I think that is that's a big
where
thing.
It falls
so
apart,
what I would say is that it is a skillfully produced and structured film.
Yes.
I think it looks great.
Yep.
I think the acting is good.
Yep.
Well, but I think that there are story plot holes that the reactions are disproportionate to the violent streak that comes out at the very end. It seems like, whoa, that really ramped up, and it didn't seem earned in that way. So that's Sissy.
Yep.
I didn't get to see some of these other great ones that you guys saw, but I got to see Sissy.
Yeah.
The other one that I got a chance to review, which is also it's a little bit of a problematic film to review, but I think I'm giving it a little bit better. I'm giving it more benefit of the doubt, and that's Slashback. So this is at the edge of
I
the
missed this one. I wanted to see it.
It is very interesting. It's at the edge of the Arctic Circle, an isolated and remote Inuit community under the unending daylight of the Arctic sun. There's a group of teenagers who fight off boredom and an alien invasion of Earth. This is the simple premise, executed earnestly, of Slashback. And you get Micaiah, who is a teenage girl, a hunter's daughter, who is weary of being at the top of the world. Being cut off from most of the civilized world is a tedium, and they have cell phones, so they know what the rest of the world is like, and they realize that they don't have it.
You're right.
This is her hometown of Pengnuturung in Nunavut, Canada, which is a real place. They call it Pang for short. Is a small hamlet of a little over 1,400 villagers, and there's little to do even in the long, lazy summer when the sun goes down after midnight. And joining her, she is her best friend, Jessie, who's the stalwart ethical soul of her group, the brash tomboy Uki, who rather likes it in Pang, and the privileged Lena, who gets to go to Winnipeg every year, which is apparently the big city. And so they go out on a boat on one lazy day because they're just bored and they want to get away from the adults, and they want to talk about boys and practice shooting a rifle, and they see this weird polar bear out there.
Right.
But it moves weird, and they go, "What's wrong with that polar bear?" And it's kind of like a polar bear squid thing. And they shoot it, and they rescue. There's like one of there was a little sister who comes out, and they rescue the little sister from this strange polar bear thing. And they go back. It's like something else. They actually, you don't realize it's a squid polar bear until they leave. They shoot it and it falls over, and then the tentacles come out of it, and you go, "Oh, okay." And then they go back to town, and then all the adults are going out on. They have like a traditional night of square dancing and binge drinking and partying at the Grange Hall, and the kids and the teenagers are left to take care of the little kids in town. But the squid polar bear thing comes following them back to the town, and then it picks off a couple of stragglers, like a fisherman and a cop, and then they get turned into these like scarecrow like guys,
right.
And they start shambling, and they must have gotten some contortionists out there because they move really funky, and then it's up to the girls to take them on, and their catchphrase was, "You don't fuck with the girls from Pang," which is great. So now I think it's important when reviewing a film like Slashback, it's as important to refrain from evaluating the film for what it is not rather than for what it is. This film is an extreme rarity in that it is almost entirely cast of Nunavik villagers from an area where acting is not a typical career option.
Right.
As such, you have to forgive some of the stiff amateurism presented within the acting.
Is the person who directed it from that?
Area? She is a similar town.
Okay.
Okay. And
she kind of knew what she was getting into.
It's probably autobiographical in some sort.
Sure. Yeah.
But and that's one of the wonderful things is that she came back.
Yeah, that's
cool. And she goes,
I'm
going to tell a story using girls like me.
Right.
And because there's a lot of things where there's like when the girls have to go back to town and take care of the kids. It's like, I don't want to take care of the kids. Let's go to the party because it's like there's that boy.
Right.
And when they go there, it's like the high school party where everybody's like, "Hey, what's up?" Not much. What's up with you? Not much.
Right.
Those kinds of things. And then the scarecrow monster comes stumbling into the party and busts it up. But it's enduring. I think. I think the fact that they actually managed to get probably a cast of 20 speaking roles out of a Nunavik Inuit population is remarkable. It reminds me a lot of Aliens on Stage, which from last year.
I thought you were going to say Attack the Block, but yeah.
Well, actually, Attack the Block if you had a community theater doing it.
Sure. Oh, okay.
So that's why the Aliens on Stage, right? It was that you really enjoyed watching these community college folks actually putting on a production. You rooted for them because it's like, come on, you guys. And in this case, it was a bunch of teenage girls. I think this movie punches above its weight class relative to the visual effects.
Do you get the sense that it'll get a wide release?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know because it really does. I mean, the acting is.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not its strength.
Sure.
But it's got a great soundtrack. You'd love the soundtrack. It might be even like, I don't know if but it's really breathy, and it's kind of this thumping, pulsing, really super cool thing. And the visuals, it's like you put it out on Baffin Island in the summertime. It's amazing looking. So, I think the long and the short of it is, what I thought about this, if this is a movie that it's a reflection of what these girls really have gone through, where they undoubtedly have wondered what their lives are going to be going forward. They can look back and realize for at least one moment, they were movie stars on the big screen in Austin, Texas. Was like
hell
that,
yeah!
And so it's like, congratulations, girls, you're movie stars. So I thought that, and so that way it's cool. I gave it 3.5 stars on my review.
Okay.
Because you just can't get around some of the stiff acting.
Right.
And the story is pretty simple, but it's like it's like you're rooting for the actors.
Sure.
In this thing.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
All right.
So that was my takeaway. Slash back.
Go see Slashback if you
Eskimo.
get a chance.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know that you. I think there's only certain populations that actually you call them Eskimos now. It's Inuit. So
yeah. All right.
Yep.
All right. My 3 were Jethica, directed by Pete O's, who has done lots of small indie features, but he hasn't done any horror. This film has exceptional atmospherics. It is a plot that I have never seen before.
Really?
And it is great acting. A woman by the name of Callie Hernandez is sort of the main character. She was in The Blair Witch. She was in The Endless. Really, really wonderful, wonderful young actress who, at the beginning of the film, she's getting it on with this guy in this car, and the guy, they finish the getting it on, and the guy says to her, like, I need to know a little bit more about you. Tell me a little bit more. And she's like, oh, you want to hear a story? I'll tell you a story. And she tells the story of her friend Jethica, who is basically comes to live with her in the middle of friggin' nowhere in New Mexico, in super, super duper rural New Mexico. And the friend Jethica comes to live with her, and the friend, Jethica, is she's done everything she can to get away from a stalker. And this guy is relentless. He is relentless. And they show all sorts of flashback clips of him, writing letters, leaving her phone messages, every possible emotion being expressed, good, bad, indifferent, violent, humorous, crying, manic, all of it. Turns out the gentleman that is stalking Jethica is actually a ghost, and he has died. He has actually died, and she doesn't realize that her stalker, who is indeed a 100% stalker, is also a ghost, and so
you can't run.
So it is up to them. There's only 3 ways you can get rid of a stalker or a ghost. You either have to the ghost has to disappear on their own, you have to kill the ghost, or you have to get the ghost to take it upon themselves to move on and find somebody else to stalk.
So was
Cool.
her stalking ghost? Was she involved with the demise of this person to make them a ghost?
That I'm not going to get into.
Okay,
that I am not going to get into.
Because that's kind of hard to shake if that was if.
I hope
you're the
this
reason
one comes
why.
out then. I didn't catch it.
Yeah, that is a big major spoiler. But I think the runtime is like an hour and 12 minutes, which is awesome. It's super tight, but at the same time, it is very languid and it is very atmospheric, and it lets you take in sort of rural New Mexico.
Yeah, hey man, it's New Mexico. What you can't move fast in New Mexico.
Yeah. It's awesome. It is awesome. Jethica may very well be on my end of year list. Next one,
cool.
Okay.
which also may be on the end of my year list, is a film directed by Addison Hyman. This is his very first film ever. He had done, little dribs and drabs here and there, but this is his first film. It's a film called Hypochondriac, and it is. Man, it is.
I'm glad you saw this, because I looked at it. I kind of went, maybe not for me.
Yeah,
it did not. I was not interested in all from reading the description. So when you said,
I wasn't either.
4 stars, and I was like, man,
Attaboy, Mike.
okay.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
Listen to Mike.
I was not interested either, and I sat down and I figured, well, there's very little because the Midnighters was only really comprised of 10 films, and so I was
Right.
like, I'm gonna have to get a little bit beyond the Midnighters. But this is a film involves a young early on in the film, this young kid Will, played exceptionally by Zach Villa. His mom is in the middle of basically a psychotic episode, and she, like, in the opening scene of the film, is trying to kill him, and he's like a 10-year-old kid, and the mom is like actively trying to kill him. Fast forward like 10, 15 years, and Will is an upstanding young gentleman who has his own relationship with a young gentleman, and he is a burgeoning potter. He's working out his artistic skills in pottery, and he starts to have all sorts of you might think they're psychosomatic. He starts to have these ailments, these maladies, etc. Then at the same time, he starts getting these weird packages from his mom that are like full of like letters and half open packs of cigarettes and VHS tapes and books that have been tabbed and all sorts of crap like that. And then she's leaving him all these really insane messages. And he starts to naturally wonder whether or not he genetically is predisposed to the same mental illness that his mom was up against. And so it does, I will say this, it does take on kind of a Donnie Darko-esque type character in the film, where he has this sort of wolf confidant that he's constantly talking to. The wolf may or may not be providing good guidance to him.
Your make-believe friend may not have your interest in line.
Exactly. Okay. But as he goes through and is trying to sort through all of this, you get what you really get is you get to see sort of the mental you get to see a mental breakdown happening in real time, and the difficulties of diagnosing and treating that when the patient comes to you with like vagaries like, oh, my arms hurt, my head feels a little fuzzy, I don't feel quite right, but it's great because in some ways it also plays, and I likened it to Let's Scare Jessica to Death, where you don't know if Jessica is indeed completely insane or if the things that are happening to her are really happening to her. And that's what Will has to face is he really going insane, and is he just caught up in the paranoia of becoming his mom?
Yeah, well, I think one of the interesting things for that, like, I get concerned, like, my father's going through dementia.
Right.
I'm going, and part of it tonight, I've also proclaimed quite loudly that I'm ready to retire as soon as I can afford to retire. Right. Because I do not want, it's like, you look down the road and you go, is that going to be me? Right. And I'm sure that, for a lot of us who are of our age now, when we see our parents slipping into a certain, now this is a younger man.
Sure.
Yeah. But the same kind of things, that the worries of casting it's like, okay, my genetic code, look forward 25 years, what am I up against?
Right. And you are spot on, and that's what I said in the review, is like the scares, like the true scares that we all fear in life don't come from ghosts and chainsaws and maniacs wielding butcher knives. They come from looking inward and coming to a realization that it could all be falling apart right before our very eyes, and we might just not know it. We might be too busy podcasting to realize it's all coming apart at the seams. All right, the last film I saw was a film Eric also reviewed. Eric gave it 3.5 stars. I'm going a solid 4 stars because you get to see Baphomet, and I was like,
that's true.
I was like, God damn it! Finally, somebody actually had the cojones to show Baphomet.
You get about 30 seconds of Baphomet.
I was like, maybe 13 seconds.
Yeah. But I got to call it because so many people just chicken out from that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So this is a film directed by Brendan Muldowney called The Cellar. I loved it. I thought it was really great. I thought the story was super tight. It basically involves a family that moves into the house of a physician that may have been dealing with a physics physics professor who may have been dealing with the dark arts.
Math is evil.
Yes, math. Yeah,
This is that was my big takeaway on this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that there's a lot of counting. There's a lot of, and then there's an abacus that you can see that's like that's moving around, shifting it around.
Right.
And there's equations scrawled all over the place, and it was like, I knew it. Math is out to get us.
Math is evil. Yes, math is the devil, and that's really kind of the takeaway. No, I think.
Oh, and I think you can see this one now. It looks like it says it's going to be. It was released on March 25th.
Right.
So yeah,
awesome. And the seller's good. I just loved the way that they didn't overplay hell. I mean, sort of in the same.
Wonderful portrayal of hell.
In sort of the same way that Phantasm is like. Hell is not all this fire and brimstone. Hell is like super mundane and boring and never ending
and just this bleak.
Yeah, and that's hell. Is not like you have these devils like constantly poking you in the butt with pitchfork. No. It's you get to stand in line forever
and count.
Yeah. No, that is my hell.
Right.
It's coming on April 15th to Shudder.
Yep.
Okay. Alicia Cuthbert, very good in this movie.
Yeah, she's great.
She was super good. She was super good. I thought everybody in the film was really, really wonderful.
So yeah, the dad not a strong point for the film. The kid was always horsing around with his little helicopter or his the drone and bouncing a ball, and didn't seem to be too concerned about the disappearance of his sister. So they weren't particularly important to the story. The sister was great, and the mom was great, but I think for dread and atmospherics and the math and hell parts, it was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. In fact, I would say that's probably why I gave it only gave it 4 stars, is because all the other characters, save for Alicia Cuthbert, were pretty darn flat. The one thing I did not mention was how great the soundtrack was. It was like the demon child of The Omen and The Shining were mushed together, and it is a really, really great soundtrack. I loved it, and it did telegraph the horror quite well. Maybe a little bit too on the nose, but it was really, really wonderful soundtrack.
Yeah. Dependent on the soundtrack to help build the tension, because it's not a gory movie. It's not. No, it's going to be a PG-13 movie.
Yep.
Still scary. It's a scary PG-13 movie, but it builds those scares up. It's reliant upon big swells from that soundtrack. Maybe a little overcooked at times, but it needs it. It needs it to come in, and it does have that kind of that orchestral punch that The Omen had.
Heck yeah. All right, well let's recap the biggest little film festival in Texas. Starting with Liz, what did you see, Liz? One more time.
Okay, my top 3 picks are Watcher, Bodies, and The Prank. And of course, we all talked about X together.
You can see X in theaters
now.
Please do, because you're supporting independent horror cinema, and it's a little tittillating too. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
It's literally titillating. It's titillating on so many different levels.
So I watched the Midnighter Shorts blocks, of which if you see if you go to horror movie festivals. And you see Mashari or Nightbreakers listed, go check those out. They're really good. I also saw Sissy, which is a solid film, problematic with, I think, some character development issues, kind of a disproportional bullying story. If you're a teenage girl, you might think that this is differently than the 3 of us thought about this one.
Than Gen X podcasters.
The old fogey horror podcasters might not have been the right target audience for that. Slashback is a great one about the Inuit badass girls taking on an alien space invasion.
All right, my 3 were Jethica, directed by Pete O's. Again, this is his first horror film, and speaking of being short on budget and having very, very little production, Jethica was that, but it does not show because there are exceptional atmospherics in Jessica. Second one, also a first film directed by Addison Hyman, a hypochondriac, wonderful depiction of mental health in America and all the stresses that we all face in going through relationships and family issues. And then finally, the film The Cellar, directed by Brendan Muldowney, really fun depiction of hell, and I thought with some super legitimate scares along the way.
Math is evil.
Math is evil. All right, Liz, you're going to take us out with the tagline from a certain film that everybody saw.
And that tagline is, one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
Yeah.